All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect, precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. Thus, until I achieve Buddha, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. Lord Vajradhara Tilipana Rupa Marpa Milarepa Gampopa Pamodrupa Jikten Sumgön Venerable Root Guru possessing the three kindnesses, root and lineage gurus, idams, dharmapalas, pray please bestow blessings on my mind stream. Unequal refuge, ornament of the world, whose renown pervades the 3,000 worlds. The undisputed conqueror Vajradhara, I pay homage to you, the Father Jikten Gompo. You alone are continually on my mind, compassionate one. Please grant your blessings, dispel the darkness of my mind. Please bless me to realize the mind free from elaborations. On the northwest border of the land of Uddiyana, in the heart of a lotus flower, endowed with the most marvelous attainments, you are renowned as lotus born, surrounded by many hosts of Dakinis following in your footsteps. I pray to you, come inspire me with your blessings, Guru Pema Siddhi Hung. In the Dharmadhatu palace of Akanishta is the essence of the Buddhas of the three times, who directly reveals my mind as Dharmakaya. O root Guru, at your feet I supplicate. So today is Friday. So on Friday, we begin first with the study of this text, and then we do the aspirations and dedication at the end. So now in this next section, which the translators provide this subtitle, how the realization of one's own mind is gained. Until self-arisen, effortlessly present wisdom, Mahamudra, the state of mind that is free from the three afflictions. So here, we can learn that effortlessly present wisdom, Mahamudra, the state of mind that is free from the afflictions, they are synonyms, right? They are different terms used in sometimes slightly different contexts, but essentially, when you hear, oh, mind that is free from the three afflictions, meaning those three poisons, ignorance, attachment, and aversion. And when you hear the mind that is free from the three afflictions, then you should know, that's what in other contexts is called Mahamudra. Then when we hear Mahamudra, we should not think, oh, it's something else. It is the mind that is free from the three afflictions. Then when we hear effortlessly present wisdom, sometimes this is translated as something like spontaneously present. And spontaneously and effortlessly are two possible English words to use to translate this into effortlessly present, spontaneously present wisdom. I tend to choose the word effortlessly. Spontaneously, I don't know, for me, it has a connotation of no rhyme or reason. That means without cause, it turns up. Spontaneous, I don't know, just me. So, until self-arisen, effortlessly present wisdom, also known as Mahamudra, the state of mind that is free from the three afflictions, has arisen for the first time in the mind stream. So this is referring to that first glimpse. That first face-to-face seeing of this nature, and not just seeing, but recognizing what you're seeing. Because it is possible to have seen it and not recognize it. But the first time you see it, you recognize it, no matter how brief, if those two things have come together, then it say here, has risen for the first time in the mind stream. Until that has happened, it is necessary to remain in the presence of a true Lama. True here, one who has the capacity to guide you to having that experience, to guide you to seeing that. Now for that, right, please don't be impatient. You cannot say, oh, who can, where can I go? It's not genuine, that kind of, like, oh, somebody can. But until that has happened, it is necessary to remain in the presence of a Lama, of a Guru who can guide you to see that. Now, when that realization has occurred, then how do we know? Then that's when there will no longer be any interest in the pleasures of the five senses. So in case you say, well, have that happened for me? If you're not sure, just look at how much interest you have in the pleasures of the five senses, the sensory pleasures, which in the section earlier, it says, identifies that as first of the five hindrances, first of the five main obstacles to the mind attaining Dyana. For the mind to settle into a true state of meditation called Dyana or Jhana. Still craving for sensory experiences, sensory pleasures. If that is still very strong, then likely that nature of mind has not been seen and recognized yet. But when that realization has occurred, then there will no longer be any interest in the pleasures of the five senses, just as a tiger or leopard has no interest in grass put in front of them. At that point, now, and then when you have been introduced to, when you have succeeded in recognizing this nature, you should generally stay in the mountain wilderness, high in the peaks of the three mountains. These three mountains are three important sacred sites in the Tibetan landscape, particularly for Kagyupas. It's Mount Kailash, known in Tibetan as Gang Tise, Mount Kailash. That is on the border of India and Tibet, in the western side of Tibet. Then Tsadi. Tsadi is in southern Tibet, close against to the Indian border with the Indian state of Assam, kind of jungles, Tsadi. Tsadi is also where our Khenchen Rinpoche was born. And then there is Lapchi. Lapchi is in Nepal today. Like most of Lapchi is under Nepal borders. So bordering Nepal and China, Lapchi. So these are the three high peaks. These are the three sacred mountains, especially for Gyalpas. Gyalpa Jikten Sumgön sent many of his disciples, those who have realized this, those who have already recognized their nature of mind. He sends them to these, especially these three places. Some he even tells them, no need to come back here anymore. You have everything you need from me. Now you need to go habituate, which is also the word we use for meditate. Now true meditation begins. Everything else before that you do is just preparation. Now to meditate is to habituate that recognition of nature of mind, and just habituate, get used to, until all your doubts are dispelled, all your afflictive emotions are dispelled, cleared. So these three mountains, Kailash, if you go to Kailash, these days mostly people go to Kailash from the Tibetan side. So you have to enter political China, and then from there get to Western Tibet and go Kailash that way. Lapchi, you go to there, you will go from Nepal, from Kathmandu to Lapchi. You can take a bus. At Kailash, you can take like jeep, and there's a road to go quite till the base, close to. There's a lake there. There's a sacred lake called Lake Manasorowa, Tsomapam. Then from there, then you can go circumambulate Kailash. Lapchi is a little bit easier to get to in terms of not having to enter political China and then get all the permits to go through central Tibet. So then Lapchi you would go from Nepal, but harder to get to in the sense of you have to trek 2-3 days to finally get to Lapchi. Of course, you take the bus from Kathmandu or jeep or whatever up until a certain point. And then if you have the money, you can also hire a helicopter to get closer. But I've never been on one, but I'm terrified of helicopters. I don't think I'm going to use it. If and when I get to Lapchi, His Holiness is going with a group of people in a couple of months to Lapchi. Then Tsari, of the three, Tsari is the hardest to get to. It lays inside political China. It's in southern Tibet. And that area even is not open, as far as I know. As in politically, it's a sensitive area. So the Chinese government, I think, is not allowing outsiders to go there. So that's the first challenge. Second challenge, historically, Tsari also very hard to get to. Because in that area, there are native tribes that live there to this day. When Tibet was its own political entity, the central Tibetan government every 12 years will negotiate a ceasefire, as today we use this term a lot, a ceasefire leading up to that year, but it happens every 12 years. They will negotiate a ceasefire with those tribes that control and live in this area, meaning paying them off with a lot of good stuff in order to permit Tibetan pilgrims to come circumambulate Tsari mountain itself for like a couple of months or so during that time. Otherwise, in other times, if you wander in there, you will be killed by these tribal people. Particularly, they use apparently poisonous arrows. So it's kind of a dangerous area. But of course, these great practitioners have no fear. So these three are particularly special places for many Tibetan Buddhists, and particularly then for Kagyupas, because the Kagyupa Lamas have identified these three as the body, speech, and mind mandalas of Chakkasamvara. Offhand, I don't remember which is matched with which. Anyway. And so he says, at this point, you should generally stay in the mountain wilderness, high in the peaks of the three mountains in the summer, and then down in their three valley bottoms in the winter. Enter into meditative absorption, into dhyanas, on that realization there, meaning you deepen your recognition of this nature. And sometimes meditate in a pleasant place, wherever the meditative absorption of Lama devotion arises. So from time to time, you may need to meditate to be inspired by the Lama. So then during those times, it's conducive to go to a pleasant place, a place that delights the mind. This unites two purposes in one place. So 171 footnote, the Tibetan for meditate in any pleasant place, wherever the meditative absorption of Lama devotion arises, this unites two purposes in one place, is rather cryptic. It may also be that it refers to the practice of visualizing the Lama at particular places of the body, and that further details are not elaborated here. So we don't know. At this point, although you may yearn to meet the Lama, the authentic Lama, in person, that is no longer appropriate. We say rely on the Lama, but this is also part of relying on the Lama. At that point, even if you long to, I want to go see my Lama, Kyopa says, no, it's not appropriate anymore. The true Lama has been occupied long enough with giving you the pith instructions of as many dharma as a horse can carry. So you should then remain in solitude, because you are like a little royal child. Your conduct should be that of a royal child. The conduct of the royal child is called so because the beginner's realization needs to be nurtured carefully. The subsequent ones are the great mantra conduct of an advanced practitioner, the conduct of an accomplished one coursing in awareness, and the conduct of the great meditative absorption of one with primordial wisdom. So this apparently is found in Gampopa's teachings to the assembly. Gampopa also has a number of texts that are called Sutra. So talk like talk offering, also gathering, assembly. Talk dharma, and dharma is for the assembly. Gampopa has maybe 7 or 8 texts with this title in his collection, in his Gambum, Dapo Gambum. So So in Gampopa's teachings to the Dharma for the assembly, he uses this term, conduct of a royal child. So here, unclear what Gyopa means, because it doesn't seem like he's saying, because in Gampopa's context, that one is saying conduct of a royal child, according to the footnote here, it should still be nurtured carefully. So one would think that if that's the meaning that Gyopa means here, then he would say, stay closer to your Lama, right? You still need to nurture it. But here he's saying, no, you don't hang on to your Lama like that anymore. Already you have wasted enough of your Lama's time and energy. And you got the most important thing you need to get from your Lama. Now go work it out yourself. So here it seems to me, I'm not saying how Gampopa is using this, but in the context that has been used here, right? When Gyopa says, now you should remain in solitude because you are like a royal child. Your conduct should be that of a royal child. So there, I think, I don't know, my sense of this is that I think in many cases, I don't know if this is true in the Tibetan case, but in many cases, I can think of the Chinese case and seemingly European cases. The royal children, they are taken away from their parents, they are raised by other people. There's a sense that, if they are too close, spend too much time with either father the king or mother the queen, they're not raised right. I think it's a sense of that you should not, be around your parents. So in the same way, it says, you have occupied the authentic Lama long enough, who have given you so many pith instructions, as much as a horse can carry. So then now, go. Someone who doesn't stay in solitude and whose five senses still follow, dragged around by the five sense objects, can fall under the influence of the ensuing ordinary consciousness, mundane consciousness, because their meditative absorption still isn't capable of withstanding the various distractions. So you have to stay in solitude because your disinterest in the sense pleasures, though it's there, but not strong enough yet, cannot withstand yet distractions. And so you should be isolated. You should isolate yourself when you're at this stage. Whereas someone who stays in solitude, where the various distractions are absent, so this stage of staying in solitude is related to, in a way you say, cultivating or providing or creating a temporary artificial condition. Because the goal is not to, perpetually be in isolation. The goal is to retreat into isolation or solitude so that you can build up strength. And then when you build up your strength, then you don't need necessarily to remain in solitude. Probably the beginning of the locus classicus, we would say. The first time this name occurs in relation to a place, and specifically a place that is a forest that is praised as having very special qualities, for practitioners is in the Samadhiraja Sutra, as far as I know. The Samadhiraja Sutra is associated with Gampopa, first of all. It's unclear, actually, what the connection is, except for somewhere along the way, it's said that the appearance of Gampopa in Tibet has been predicted or prophesied in the Samadhiraja Sutra. So there is a character in the Samadhiraja Sutra. The Samadhiraja Sutra is a rather long sutra in the perfection of wisdom style, basically. But it has a long sutra with several narratives that are presented, and they're not necessarily connected. So one narrative is around this one figure, a great bodhisattva who is the leader of 500 other bodhisattvas. And the sutra in that chapter, I think is chapter 36 of the sutra, maybe. It begins by talking about how this great bodhisattva is the leader of a group of 500 other bodhisattvas practicing in the forest. And this forest is called Samantabhadra, the forest Samantabhadra, meaning the all excellent, the ever excellent. Samanta means all, and in the sense of also ever, forever. Bhadra is good or excellent. So the grove, the Samantabhadra grove of forest, which is also the name of our future monastery in North Carolina. Before I connect this to what we're talking about here, quickly, from there in the Samadhiraja Sutra, this forest in that chapter is described and praised as having all the excellent qualities for practitioners to reside in. Much of that chapter describes, the kind of inspiring, idyllic even, because it's described in beautiful terms, and also how food is easily obtained, fruits and vegetables are available, so that the bodhisattvas there don't have to harm beings in order to, sustain themselves, and so on and so forth. This described there. And then so based on this story and the description of this idyllic and supportive place, Kyoba Jikten Sumgön perceived and called Mahamudrupa's community in Densatil. He calls his teacher's place Samantabhadra's forest, based on Samadhiraja. That's quite clear, that he knows about this description of this ideal forest in the sutra, and so then he perceived and experienced Mahamudrupa's place, this community, in this place called Ngamshu, as Samantabhadra's forest. He would call it that. Then later, Drikung, which is in a different area in Tibet, further north, Ngamshu, Mahamudrupa's place, is south east of Lhasa, and Drikung is northeast of Lhasa. Later, Drikung also, Kyopa's students would call it Samantabhadra's forest, although there aren't really trees in Drikung. But it's Samantabhadra's forest. So it's a special, auspicious name. So our place is Samantabhadra's forest and has the name as well. May it be auspicious. May we actualize this. Now, what's really interesting, now related, coming back to here. In that story, in the Samadhiraja Sutra, as wonderful and as idyllic and supportive as Samantabhadra forest is, ultimately, the great Bodhisattva leaves the forest and goes into the city and then dies in the city. He goes into the city, not just any city, he goes into the royal city because through his power of realization, he says to his followers, he says, now time is right for me to go into the royal city because the king is ready to be taught. But at that time, famously, the king was against Dharma. So all the disciples pleaded with him not to go because they were quite certain that the king was going to harm him. But he went nonetheless, and true enough, the king executed him. But of course, miraculous things happened at the end, so that the king was actually changed and repented his wrongs and then turned to the Dharma. Yeah. So this notion of you don't go into solitude forever, but for the time that is needed, you need to be there. So coming back on the top of 94, where the various distractions are absent, then you will be able to settle into deeper and deeper cleaning out of the confusions of all the afflictive emotions and to settle into meditative absorption. Thus, turn inward, and with the five senses being carried away by the five objects, without the five senses being carried away by the five objects, place yourself in this state of Dyana. These two words, meditative equipoise, Samadhi, and meditative absorption, Dyana, there are differences, between the two, depending on the contexts in which they are used. But overall, you could say they are pointing towards the same quality of mind. When it's samadhi, it's equipoise, meaning equal, meaning constant, meaning kind of spread evenly. So this is that part of this same, I would say, same quality of mind, but the calling it samadhi is emphasizing the evenness of it. So meaning no more ups and downs. Steady, you could say. Samadhi, sama, like even in Hindi or Malay, Indonesian languages, sama means same. Samadhi. Dhyana, which is here translated as meditative absorption, this has more a connotation of, I will say that, for all intents and purposes, it's the same type of mind. We need to achieve the dhyana, we need to achieve the samadhi. That will then, the dhyana part is meditative translated as meditative absorption, in the sense that the mind is disinterested, withdrawn. Withdrawn and disinterested from what? In this context, from the five sensory experiences. Now, just to point out, there are explanation and understandings of dhyanas as withdrawing in a kind of, you could say, tight way. In a tight and perhaps even rigid way, like, oh, no five senses, or try to shut down the doors. Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, those doors. Plug your ears, close your eyes, block your nose. Don't smell anything. Don't hear anything. Don't see anything. But that's not, I would say, that's not the dhyana in general. That's not the meaning of dhyana. The meaning of dhyana is more to do with when the mind has, understanding, has insight, has some kind of insight into things, into the nature of things, into the nature of experiences, then of itself, the sense objects have become like grass is to tigers. No interest. So then the mind is no longer moving. Not that the mind has become inert, but it no longer has any desires to move. Thus turn inward, and without the five senses being carried away, dragged around by the five sense objects, place yourself, abide in this meditative absorption. So this next section is when Gyopa scolds those who say things like, oh, I'm a great meditator, so I don't need these solitude anymore. Again, kind of, you could see how you read the Samadhiraja Sutra story, you're like, okay, now I'm a great bodhisattva, I can go now, I don't need to be in solitude. In Milarepa's life, at one point, I think Rechongpa or somebody like that said to Milarepa and said, you say to us that once the mind has seen its and stabilized and everything, and once you reach higher realization, it doesn't matter where you are, whether you are up in the mountains, in the solitude of the mountains, wandering from peak to peak, or you're down, in the village. I think maybe Rechungpa has this habit of liking to hang out in the village. Go on pilgrimage, go into the village, then he gets, distracted, and, and then he comes back late, and, then Milarepa is waiting for his meal. So various stories like that. Then Rechungpa also likes to argue with Milarepa, and some days Raja Rechungpa will think I know more than him, all of that. They have an interesting relationship, but unlike Marpa, who just would smack down Milarepa was very gentle with Rechungpa, very patient with Rechungpa, and it's not modern, you could say, not Milarepa's style. Milarepa also will not mince words. But anyway, probably it was Rechungpa saying, you read, in 100,000 songs of Milarepa, Milarepa saying to Rachel, why do you keep going down to that, hang out in the towns, and get all distracted and get all worked up, you know? So possibly, I think one day, Rachel say, you, you know, meaning he's insinuating, maybe you're not that realized, That's why you stay in the mountains. Because you say, doesn't matter when you're fully realized. Milarepa said, it makes no difference actually for me anymore, whether I'm down in the village, hanging out in the towns, or staying up in the mountains here. But for the sake of inspiring other practitioners to head to the mountains, to find solitude, in order to have the best conditions to practice, I choose to mostly remain in the mountains. And so both Milarepa and the great Bodhisattva in the Samadhiraja Sutra, they were both doing the right thing. One to remain in the mountains, and the other to go into the city. Yeah. Now, let's end with our week of study, and also today with the aspiration prayers. First, the aspiration that is a short part of this longer blessing aspiration sutra called the Mahasutra on entering the city of Vaishali. He in whom all attachment and greed are conquered, all defilement gone, his mind at peace without harmful intent, he will bring you well-being. He who leads all worldly beings to tread the path of liberation, the teacher of all dharmas, he will bring you well-being. The teacher, support of wandering beings who, for the sake of every living creature, brings them all to master happiness, he will bring you well-being. The protector who with thoughts of love for all these beings sustains them always, just as he would his only child, he will bring you well-being. He who in samsara has been for all samsaric beings the support, an island and a friend, he will bring you well-being. He who has laid bare all phenomena, who is pure and free from deception, whose words are pure, whose very acts are purity, he will bring you well-being. This great hero who by taking birth with perfection attained his purpose and accomplished all his goals, he will bring you well-being. He whose birth when this whole earth with all its forests shook and trembled, brought joy for every living creature, he will bring you well-being. He who caused on the seed of awakening the earth to quake in all 6 ways, and Mara to feel despair, he will bring you well-being. He who turning the wheel of the Dharma pronounced the truths of the noble ones and was extolled as a sage, the Muni, he will bring you well-being. The alluring one who defeated all the extremists with the Dharma and brought all assemblies under his influence, he will bring you well-being. May the Buddha bring you well-being. May Chakra and the gods bestow well-being, and may well-being from the Buddhas too be provided to you always. By the Buddha's merit and power and the wishes of the gods, may whatever goal you seek this very day be accomplished. Two-legged beings be well, four-legged beings be well, when you set out be well, and when you return be well. Be well in the daytime, be well in the night, be well at midday too. May all of you be always well, may all of you know no evil. Surrounded by 1,000 gods, the Buddha has arrived, so you with hateful thoughts disperse, and you whose nature is compassion stay. By the power of the true words of the Buddhas, Pratyeka Buddhas, Arhats, and those being trained, those who do harm to the world should be gone from this city. All sentient beings, all living creatures, all Buddhas, and every one of you, may you have nothing but happiness. May you all be free from illness. May you see what is good. May all of you know no evil. May whatever Buddhas are assembled here, all those who live upon the earth or in the sky, act always lovingly for human beings and practice Dharma day and night. Homage to the three jewels in this world or beyond. There is nothing, not even a precious gem in the higher realms, that equals the thus gone one, the God of gods, the supreme among humans. Thus he is called the most precious gem. By this truth may there be well-being here. There is nothing at all comparable to the Dharma of uncompounded quiescent ambrosia, the uncompounded ambrosia of extinction and dispassion, discerned by the sage of the Shakyas through his knowledge. Thus it is called the most precious gem. By this truth may there be well-being here. There is nothing comparable to the absorption that perceives the Vajra light, non-dual path, the manifestation in due order of what is most desired, the permanent accomplishment of the teacher's absolute practice. Thus it is called the most precious gem. By this truth may there be well-being here. The eight great kinds of person praised and called the four pairs, extolled as venerable by the thus gone one, the incomparable person, the great sage, yield great fruits when offered to, like seeds planted in the fertile field. This is called the most precious gem of the Sangha. By this truth may there be well-being here, since those who strive with firm resolve and enter Gautama's teaching, gain access to ambrosia, remove darkness, and attain nirvana. They are called the most precious gem of the Sangha. By this truth may there be well-being here. As soon as they connect with this vision, belief in the transitory collection, ethical discipline in the form of extreme austerity, and doubt are simultaneously cast off, and they see the truth of the noble ones. Thus they are called the most precious gem of the Sangha. By this truth may there be well-being here. With body, speech, or mind, they never produce the threefold evil deeds, and even when they suddenly do, they do not conceal them, and in that way their view is not tainted with grasping. Thus they are called the most precious gem of the Sangha. By this truth may there be well-being here. Just as a threshold being planted in the ground is unmoved by winds from the four directions, so are the members of the Sangha of noble ones who have insight into the highest path of the noble ones. Thus they are called the most precious gem of the Sangha. By this truth may there be well-being here. Those who cultivate with profound wisdom the eloquently taught truths of the noble ones, and consider giving away even their own bodies, never encountered the 8 perils, thus they are called the most precious gem of the Sangha. By this truth may there be well-being here. Just as a flame extinguished by the wind cannot be taken up and counted, so do the offsprings of the Buddhas become indemonstrable once they have discarded all fetters. Thus they are called the most precious gem of the Sangha. By this truth may there be well-being here. May all sentient beings moving or still be well here, and may they pay homage to the Buddha, the supreme teacher, venerable by gods and humans. May there be well-being here today. May all sentient beings moving or still be well here. May they pay homage to the Dharma, the peaceful dispassion, venerated by gods and humans. May there we be well-being here today. May all sentient beings moving or still be well here. May they pay homage to the Sangha, the supreme assembly venerated by gods and humans. May there be well-being here today. May all sentient beings moving or still be well here. May whatever Buddhas are assembled here, all those who dwell upon the earth or in the sky, act always lovingly toward all creatures and practice Dharma day and night. By the truth that the victorious one, having vanquished his foes, spoke truthfully, without falsehood, may there be well-being here, and may all be delivered from grave perils. All the majesty of all the by the majesty of all the Buddhas, the majesty of the Pratyeka Buddhas, the powers of the Arhats, and all the secret mantra holders, by the wisdom of Shariputra, the supernatural power of Mogayayana, the vision of Aniruddha, and the ascetic practices of Kashyapa, by the precious attainments of Kaundinya, the learning of Ananda, the benevolence of Brahma, and the supremacy of Shattakartu, by the territories of the guardians of the world, the power of Maheshwara, the might of the generals, and the supernatural splendor of Hariti. Through their might and majesty, may poison be removed from me. In the language of India, Arya Maitri Pranidhana Raja. In the language of Tibet, Pakpa Champe Monlamgi Gyalpo. In the English language, the noble Maitreya's king of aspirations. Homage to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Ananda. In the past, when the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Maitreya was engaged in the Bodhisattva practices, he would drape his upper robes over one shoulder, bend his right knee to the ground, and join his palms together 3 times a day and 3 times a night. He would then concentrate on all the Buddhas and make the following aspiration. Homage to all Buddhas, homage to the Bodhisattvas who possess the divine vision of seers, and homage to the hearers as well. Homage to Bodhicitta, the heart of awakening that keeps the lower realms at bay, that shows us the way to the higher realms and leads us to a state beyond aging and death. I go before the awakened ones to confess any and all misdeeds that I may have committed while under the sway of mind. May all merit occurred through the 3 kinds of actions become a seed for my omniscience and inexhaustible awakening. The Buddhas are aware and rejoice in any offering made to the awakened ones throughout the Buddha fields of the 10 directions, and so do I too rejoice. I hereby confess all negative actions. I hereby rejoice in everything meritorious. I hereby pay homage to all Buddhas. May I attain the supreme wisdom state. I exhort each and every bodhisattva dwelling in the 10 directions and upon the 10 bodhisattva levels to awaken now to supreme enlightenment. And as they awaken to sublime enlightenment, may they turn the wheel of Dharma so as to tame the demons and all their hordes and bring benefit to every living being. May the beat of the great drum of Dharma free beings from their suffering for unimaginable billions of eons. May the awakened ones teach Dharma and remain, I beg you, best of humans. Look upon us drowning in the mud of desires, bound by the ropes of craving, and in other ways absolutely trapped. May the Buddhas not level criticism against those of impure minds. Instead, may they give love to beings and free them from the ocean of existence. May I train in the likeness of the perfectly awakened Buddhas of the present, past, and future, and uphold the Bodhisattva conduct. May I bring to completion the 6 perfections and lead to the end the 6 classes of beings. May I manifest at last the 6 super knowledges and reach the unsurpassed state of awakening. May I realize the truth of emptiness in which all is birthless and non-arising, without intrinsic nature, without location, with neither mental process nor substance. Just like the great sage, the Buddha himself, may I realize the truth of selflessness in which beings do not exist, nor any living things, nor any individual, nor any kind of person. May I practice generosity free from stinginess without entertaining any notion of substantiality, nor any belief in the self, nor egotistical clinging, so that the benefit may reach all beings. Since material things do not exist concretely, may all my needs be spontaneously met. Since all material things are subject to decay, may I master the perfection of generosity. With discipline completely flawless, discipline that is perfectly pure, and discipline devoid of arrogance, may I master the perfection of discipline. With absence of anger, in other words, with patience, akin to how the earth, water, and fire elements, and the wind element as well dwell not anywhere, may I complete the perfection of patience. With persistent application of diligence, may I be ever joyful and free from laziness. And with strength in both body and mind, may I complete the perfection of diligence. With illusion-like meditative concentration and bravery-inspiring meditative concentration and vajra-like meditative concentration, may I master the perfection of meditation. Acting with the 3 gates of liberation, with the equality of the 3 times and the threefold knowledge, may I master the perfection of wisdom. May I be praised by all Buddhas as I beam with light and splendor. And with the diligence of a bodhisattva, may all my aims be accomplished. As I engage in this very conduct, may I, the one known as Maitreya, bring to completion the 6 perfections and reach the 10 bodhisattva levels. At the very moment I pass away, may I joyfully take rebirth into Shita heaven, and swiftly delighting the Lord Maitreya, receive his prophecy of my awakening. Changchu Semcho Rinpoche Ma ge ba nam ge gyu chi ge ba nyam ba me ba yang o ne gong du be wan shu. just to point out, this very last verse, at the very moment I pass away, may I joyfully take rebirth in Tushita heaven and swiftly delighting the Lord Maitreya, receiving his prophecy of my awakening. This is not in the original aspiration, but has been added on later. So sort of like finish doing the aspiration that Maitreya did, adopting Maitreya as a model for us on how to practice and how to make aspirations. Then at the end, this verse is added to say, so may I be welcome into Maitreya's presence. So it is believed that Maitreya, the future Buddha, is already waiting to come at the right time. And meanwhile, he is in Tushita heaven, just as Shakyamuni, his very last birth, before he was born as a human, he resided in Tushita heaven. So this is the meaning here of this last verse. Then the other thing to point out is starting on page 22, this is basically the 6 perfections. A very nice 6 verses on kind of distilling all the elements involved in the 6 perfections. Since material things do not exist concretely, as in do not exist inherently, substantially, may all my needs be spontaneously met. So that so nicely, puts it to say, actually your needs, often, not always, especially you and me, our needs are not really needs, they are immaterial, what we really need. So may my needs be effortlessly met. That means practice contentment, Since all material things are subject to decay, and so since material things are subject to decay, then may I master the perfection of giving. May I not be so, tightly holding on to things that are subject to decay. Then the one on discipline. Our discipline, we need to strive for our disciplined conduct to be flawless, to be perfectly pure. But guard against arrogance, meaning holier than thou, we say in English, this expression, or self-righteousness. I'm so disciplined, I'm so pure, I'm such a strict practitioner, I'm such a good monk, I'm such a wonderful nun. Not like those corrupt types. That pride and judgmental mind towards others, especially when you seemingly, my discipline is so good, I'm so pure. Guard against that arrogance. So these 2 just today. So you all have a good weekend. If you can join us. If you have time, inclination, you can join us in our Amitabha practice tomorrow from 11 to 1 New York time. And then next weekend is the Amitabha empowerment. For that, you have to register for that particular program. So please do that if you want to participate. So that's it for now. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a good weekend.